The morning has no edges. You stand at the mouth of the trail where fog pours between the birches like something alive, something deciding whether to enter your lungs or the earth first. The air is thin, tasting faintly of salt from the Atlantic that lives somewhere beyond the hills. Maine in early spring has this way of pretending it remembers warmth but can't quite summon it. You stretch your legs, the gravel beneath your shoes damp and giving. There's no one else around, just the rhythmic hum of something unseen. Perhaps insects, perhaps the low electric buzz of distant power lines. You can't tell. You don't try to. The watch on your wrist blinks 6:12 a.m. The run should take 40 minutes, maybe 45 if you let your thoughts drift too far. You always tell yourself you'll stay on the marked loop, yet each time the loop feels longer, its turns rearranged by the night. You chalk it up to fog, to fatigue, to imagination. All the things you can't prove but still obey. You begin to move. The first few strides are mechanical, left, right, breathe, repeat, but as your body warms, something clicks into rhythm. The forest thickens around you, swallowing the world behind. Birch trunks blur into streaks of gray-white. The fog folds tighter, muting the sound of your own breath. The trail bends left, where the incline begins. You remember this hill, Birch Hill, though there are more pines than birches here. Halfway up, there's an old wooden marker carved with a date long gone. June 1982. You've never asked who carved it. Some say it was for a search years back, when another runner didn't return. You used to dismiss that story as local folklore, a campfire tale designed to make kids wear reflective vests. Still, as your shoes crunch over the soil, you think of that number burned into the wood. 1982. 4 years ago. A year you can't quite place without flinching. You breathe deeper, trying to clear it out. The air feels metallic now, the kind that stings the back of your throat. Somewhere behind, a crow splits the silence with a short, hard sound. Not a caw, but something closer to a question. You check your watch again. 6:22. You've barely gone a mile. The forest feels endless already. Ahead, the trail narrows, the branches knitting into an archway. You duck slightly to pass beneath. There's a scent here, wet bark, decaying leaves, the faint sweetness of pine sap. The fog beads on your skin. You wipe your forehead, smear cold across your brow. You think about the night before. You remember laying out your shoes by the door, your keys in the bowl, the glass of water you didn't finish. You remember telling yourself the run would help you think. About what, though? You can't recall. There's a contradiction somewhere deep beneath your ribs. You run to quiet your mind, yet every mile seems to sharpen it. You run to escape, yet you always end up circling back. To the same trail, the same thoughts, the same breath sinking with something unseen. Halfway up the hill, the fog thickens. You slow down, blinking against the blur. The world narrows to 10 feet of dirt and the sound of your shoes landing. Then, faintly, another rhythm emerges. Footsteps, light, quick, just behind your own. You stop. Silence. You turn around, but there's only fog. Parts slightly, then reforms, as though refusing to reveal its source. The birch trunks lean closer, listening. You tell yourself it's an echo, the sound bouncing off the hills, maybe even your own breath thrown back at you. You start running again, faster this time. Not because you're afraid, or at least that's what you tell yourself, but because something in you insists on movement. To stop would mean letting the thought catch up. At the ridge, the fog begins to glow faintly, the sun fighting through, diffused into milk-white light. You feel sweat cooling on your back, breath short, heartbeat loud enough to mimic another's. There's comfort in repetition. The body becomes a metronome, and thought becomes background noise. Then you hear it again. Not footsteps, not echo. A single, soft exhale behind you. You turn sharply. Nothing. But the fog. It moves against the wind. You stand perfectly still. The cold air thickens in your chest. Somewhere, maybe within you, a voice begins to whisper what you've avoided all along. You weren't supposed to run today. You blink hard, grounding yourself. Feel the dirt, the air, the burn in your calves. Everything is real. It must be. You check your watch again. 6:38. You've been standing still for 8 minutes. The fog parts slightly to reveal the wooden marker up ahead. The one that reads June 1982. Only now, the numbers look freshly carved. The crow cries again, closer this time. You breathe out, step forward once more, and the forest seems to breathe with you. The morning has no edges. It never did. The first hill flattens, and the sound of your breath settles into a slow, methodical pattern. You count it 4 steps in, 4 steps out, as though it's a contract you made with the air itself. The fog thins in fragments, unveiling small patches of light that feel undeserved. Maine mornings have a way of pretending to be kind. The chill strokes your arms softly, deceptive as mercy. You tell yourself the worst of it was the first climb, that the rest will open up gentle and familiar. But your body doesn't believe it. It runs the way prey does, smooth, quiet, listening. The gravel turns to packed dirt. Birch trunks give way to darker trees, pine, oak, something else older and less forgiving. The air shifts, denser now, as though the forest itself exhales into you. You feel it in your chest. There's a hum somewhere, not mechanical, not quite natural either. It's like the faint vibration that precedes a storm or a light bulb about to die. It hides in the stillness, waiting for your mind to focus too hard. When you notice it, it stops. The rhythm of your shoes becomes the only sound. You find comfort in it for a moment, pretending it's a heartbeat outside yourself. At the mile mark, a rusted sign leans against the earth. The letters are half gone, but you know what it once said. Birch Hill Loop, stay on path. The paint flakes into your palm when you touch it. It leaves a faint metallic scent. You think about how often you've touched that sign. Every week for years, you've pressed your fingers against it without knowing why. Habit, maybe, or superstition. The gesture feels like proof that you're still here, still capable of leaving fingerprints on the world. You keep running. The forest opens into a clearing. You slow down, inhaling deeply. The air tastes faintly of iron and wet moss. You close your eyes mid-step, just once, and in that instant the world becomes sound. The crunch of dirt, the whisper of fabric, your own pulse thrumming like distant thunder. When you open them again, the clearing looks wrong. The path that should bend left curves right. The fallen log that always rests beside the rock is gone. And the sound, that faint hum, returns, deeper now, like static beneath your thoughts. You pause, hands on your knees, eyes scanning the line where fog meets earth. There's nothing unusual, but the quiet presses hard against your temples. It's not peace, it's pressure. You check your watch. 6:47. Time behaves here the way fog does. Too soft to trust. You take a cautious step forward, then another. You keep your eyes low, focusing on detail, pebbles, pine needles, boot prints. Except there are no boot prints. Not yours. Not anyone's. The dirt lies unbroken, as though it's been untouched for weeks. You stop again. Your mind begins its quiet rebellion, logical explanations assembling themselves like a desperate search party. You must have taken the wrong fork. You must be looping wider than usual. You must be fine. The forest disagrees. Something rustles behind you, light but deliberate. You turn quickly, scanning the birches. Nothing. The fog shifts like a curtain, then holds. You listen again, breath, silence, breath, silence. You decide to move. Not run, just walk. Keep your pace controlled, neutral, like an actor pretending to know his lines. You look for markers, the broken fence, the stream, the old ranger post. None appear. You start to feel the forest closing. Not physically, but perceptually. As if every tree you pass takes something from you. Sound, direction, confidence. The fog eats them piece by piece. Then, faintly, from somewhere deep ahead, comes a noise like a shoe scraping gravel. You freeze. It's too far to be yours, too specific to be wind. It happens once, then again, then stops exactly when you turn your head toward it. You whisper something, a word that might be hello, or might be your own name, but the fog folds your voice and gives it back in reverse. That's when the contradiction strikes you. You've run this trail for years, yet you can't describe a single landmark without doubt. You know it, but you don't remember it. You look down at your watch again. The numbers flicker for a moment, 6:52, then blur into nothing. Condensation beads beneath the glass, fog inside the watch. You wipe it clean. The numbers return. 6:53. But for a moment, you're sure you saw something else reflected there, the curve of a shoulder just behind yours. You start running again. Not fast, but committed. Your body takes control while your thoughts scatter. The hum grows louder, closer now, until you realize it isn't coming from the trees at all. It's inside your ears. A quiet, relentless static. The forest bends again. This time you recognize something. A flash of red. The scarf you tied to a branch weeks ago. Proof. You feel relief so sharp it almost hurts. You touch it, fingers trembling. The fabric is dry. Should be soaked. You whisper again. Something like gratitude, but it dissolves into the mist. You tell yourself you'll reach the road in 10 minutes. You picture asphalt, headlights, the world made of edges again. You believe it enough to run harder. The hum fades, the fog thins, and for a few breaths you think you've outrun it. Until the scarf moves. Not from wind, from breath. You stop, frozen mid-stride, as the air bends toward you. And in that moment, you realize you can hear your own heartbeat, but not where it should be. It's coming from the fog. Ahead of you, you whisper your name again, quieter this time, like a test. The fog whispers it back. The fog begins to rise, lifting like a curtain that doesn't want to end the play. The trees emerge one by one. Slick trunks, glistening needles, their shapes bending slightly, as though seen through trembling glass. You keep running even though the trail feels foreign underfoot. Each footfall lands softer now, the dirt wet enough to swallow sound. Your breath becomes the only rhythm left, the one steady thing in a place that seems to change shape with each inhale. You whisper your own name under your breath again, just to hear it fall somewhere. It doesn't. The sound folds inward and disappears before reaching the air. The scarf behind you, or whatever it was, has stopped moving. You don't look back. You tell yourself it's fine. The forest is playing tricks, moisture refracting light, brain misfiring from low oxygen. Logical, scientific. You repeat those words like beads of a rosary. But then the forest starts whispering back. It starts small, the faintest repetition of your breath, delayed by half a second. An echo that doesn't belong to rock or water. It's softer than a real reflection of sound, like someone learning how to breathe by imitation. You try to break rhythm. Breathe irregularly, fast, then slow. The echo adapts. A trick, you tell yourself again. Echoes can bounce from fog, from trees, from your skull. But when you stop, the forest doesn't. The other breath keeps going, half a beat longer than it should. You scan the distance. The fog shifts like breath exhaled by something large, patient, unseen. Every birch looks like the ghost of a runner caught mid-stride. Their white bark gleams like skin under a too bright interrogation lamp. You blink hard. Try to locate yourself in time. You began at 6:12. You should be finishing by now, looping toward the main road. But there's no thinning of trees, no sign of morning sun burning through. The hum returns, louder, pulsing, matching the rhythm of your heartbeat. You press your palms against your ears, but it's inside, not outside. A resonance you can't turn off. Then, faintly, another sound breaks through. A soft, rhythmic ticking. You know that sound. The stopwatch you carry for pacing. Except it's not in your pocket anymore. You left it on the counter this morning, right beside your keys. You stop dead. The ticking continues, steady, mechanical, confident, coming from somewhere ahead. You want to call out, but the word lodges behind your teeth. Instead, you listen. Tick, tick, tick. Each sound feels closer, until you can almost feel the vibration under your skin. You step forward slowly, half expecting to see the source, the silver stopwatch dangling maybe, caught on a branch. But what you find instead is a footprint. One, perfectly shaped, pressed deep into the dirt. It's not yours. The tread pattern is wrong. Smooth where yours are ridged, too long in the toe. The heel mark runs slightly inward, as if the person walked with a limp or an imbalance. You crouch down, hand trembling. The soil beneath the print is still wet, still sinking slightly as if it were fresh. You touch it. The indentation pulses once, almost imperceptibly, like a heartbeat. You snatch your hand back. The hum cuts out. The ticking stops. The silence that follows feels like a trapdoor opening beneath your mind. You stand, chest tight, scanning the tree line. The fog seems thinner now, though it's only an illusion of panic. Your eyes dart between trunks, seeking motion, logic, edges. And then, from deep within the fog, a voice calls your name. Calmly, clearly, once. Not a scream, not echo, not panic. Just a measured, ordinary tone, like someone confirming attendance. You freeze. You know that voice, but you can't place it. It's not your mother, not your friend, not your coach. It's older, closer, sounds like you. The sound doesn't repeat. The forest digests it completely. You stand there, tasting fear the way you'd taste rain. Metallic, inevitable. Your mind reaches for anchors, the signpost, the ridge, the road, but each thought collapses before finishing. It's not just disorientation. It's something else, something watching the thought process itself and editing it mid-formation. You take one step back. The fog thickens instantly, as if anticipating the movement. You take another. The air feels heavier, wet with unseen weight. Then you see it, faint but definite, a second footprint forming beside the first. The soil depresses on its own, like a breath drawn in reverse. You whisper again, this time pleading with the quiet. Stop! The forest obeys. Everything freezes. For the first time, you hear your own heartbeat properly. It's in your chest again. You exhale, trembling. And when you do, the fog exhales too. The shape dissolves. The trail opens again, faint and uncertain but visible enough to follow. You don't think. You just run. Fast, hard, mechanical. The hum fades. The ticking dies. The only sound left is your pulse, hammering like something that doesn't trust you anymore. You don't look back. You run until the world stops shifting, until the trees grow sparse and you can see a faint glint ahead, metal, light, safety. The ranger's signpost. You've made it back. Except the letters aren't the same. They read, Birch Hill Loop, closed for investigation, June 1982. You stare at it, breathing ragged. The fog drifts by slow as smoke, and somewhere behind you, soft but certain. Another breath mirrors yours again. You don't turn. You don't need to. You already know it's standing exactly where you were. The room hums with fluorescent light, a sterile, low vibration that feels almost alive, crawling faintly against the inside of your skull. You sit at a steel table, wrists resting on its cold edge. Your shoes are still damp, small specks of mud drying into constellations across the tile floor. Someone left a heater on low in the corner, its soft rumble out of sync with the buzz above. You're not sure when the forest ended or when this room began. You only remember headlights cutting through fog, a ranger stepping out, his coat shining wet under halogen beams. He said your name like it was a question. You answered as if you'd been waiting to be found. Now you wait again. The ranger returns after a while, holding a notepad, his boots clicking softly against the tile. He doesn't sit immediately. He stands across from you, glancing at your hands before meeting your eyes. You said you were running, he begins. You nod. Your throat feels lined with ash. Birch Hill Loop. He writes something down. His handwriting looks rehearsed, tall, tidy, patient. Can you tell me what time you started? You check your watch. The glass is cracked. The condensation inside has turned to mist again, tiny droplets trembling with each pulse of the heater. 6:12. You answer, though it feels like a guess now. He nods. And you said, something happened? You open your mouth, but the words hesitate at the edge. You don't know what counts as happened. The fog? The echo? The voice? You settle on the simplest truth. I got lost. His gaze lingers just a fraction too long. Then he sits, elbows resting neatly on the table. How far did you run before you noticed? I don't know. Maybe 2 miles. He nods again, slow, rhythmic, as if syncing himself to your tone. You realize then that he mirrors your movements, the way you tilt your head, the pace of your breathing. You cross your arms, he folds his hands. The symmetry feels deliberate. It takes you a moment to understand that this is a technique. You've read about it, mirroring used to establish comfort, rapport, familiarity. A small, controlled illusion of safety. You remind yourself it's routine, procedural. Still, you find yourself matching him back unconsciously. Your breathing aligns, and for a moment you feel like you're watching yourself from outside the room. He flips to a new page. Can you describe the fog? You hesitate. It was heavy. Moving. He looks up. Moving. Like breath. You say quietly. Like something alive. He doesn't write this one down. He lets the silence stretch instead. A quiet space for your mind to echo in. The heater hums again. The fluorescent lights blink. And you realize he's testing how you fill the silence. You glance at the one-way mirror behind him. Your reflection is faint, smudged by glare, but you can see enough. A pale face, wet hair, eyes that seem a little too wide. For a moment, you think you see another reflection behind yours, something shifting slightly in the dark glass. When you blink, it's gone. He follows your gaze. You think someone was out there with you? You take a slow breath. I heard footsteps and breathing. He nods once. Could be an echo. That fog plays tricks. You want to agree, but the word echo feels wrong now. Echoes return what you send out, they don't create new shapes. You lower your eyes. I don't think it was echo. He leans forward. Then what do you think it was? You hesitate too long. When you finally speak, your voice sounds foreign. It said my name. The words hang between you, quiet and heavy. He doesn't react, not visibly. He flips another page, writes something short. Then, softly, how did it say it? You look up. Like this. You lower your tone, calm and level. Just normal. Like I was late. He nods. Did it sound like anyone you know? You almost say no, but your throat closes around the answer. The memory feels too near, too unfinished. It sounded like me. This time he looks up sharply. The pen stops mid-word. For half a second, his reflection in the mirror seems delayed, blinking out of sync. You glance back at the fogged watch on your wrist. The condensation inside has rearranged itself. Tiny droplets forming a number. 1982. You blink hard and it's gone. The ranger shifts his weight. The chair creaks once. You know, people disappear up there sometimes. He says, voice even conversational. Weather changes quick. Folks lose direction. Happens every few years. You look at him. When was the last time? He checks his notes. June 1982. You feel your stomach tighten, but he doesn't seem to notice. The heater clicks off. The silence returns thick and clinical. He watches you in it. You can tell he's waiting for something. An opening, a confession, a detail you've been holding. You break first. I saw something carved into a post. You whisper. That same date. Looked fresh. He leans forward slightly. Fresh. You nod. He sets down his pen and folds his hands again, perfectly matching your posture. You're certain of that? You hesitate, then nod again. He studies you for a long moment, then quietly says, you might be right. The hum resumes, low and steady. You can hear the faint scratch of graphite beneath his fingers again. You don't know if it's real writing or just the sound of it. When you finally look down, there's a single drop of water on the table. It wasn't there before. You reach to wipe it away, but your finger leaves a streak like fog on glass. The ranger doesn't react. He's watching your reflection instead. And the reflection, it's smiling faintly, though you aren't. The fluorescent hum never stops. It vibrates just low enough to make your jaw ache, steady enough to disguise itself as silence. The ranger sits across from you again. Same chair, same notepad, same blank composure. A paper cup of water waits by your hand. You hadn't asked for it, but he must have known you would need one. He takes a sip from his own cup first. You notice the timing, slow, deliberate, eyes on you the entire time. You lift yours instinctively, drink at the same pace. The water tastes metallic, colder than it should be. The echo of swallowing fills the small room like a shared secret. He sets his cup down, fingers aligned perfectly with the rim. You said you've been running that trail for years, he says. You nod. Since high school. What keeps you going back? You shrug. Habit. Quiet. It helps me think. He writes something. About what? You hesitate. The truthful answer would be about control, the rhythm of steps, the breath, the structure of it all. The illusion that you can keep one thing steady when the rest of your life bends. But you don't say that. You say, nothing much. He nods, approving the lie like a parent allowing a child to keep a secret. Then he repeats softly, nothing much. Your pulse stutters. The way he says it sounds identical, your tone, your pace, even the half-breath before the words. He's quoting you perfectly, like playback. You shift slightly, glance toward the one-way mirror again. Two shapes this time. One clear, one faint. You can't tell which one is yours anymore. The ranger leans forward, elbows mirroring yours again. You mentioned you saw a date carved into the post. June 1982. Do you remember what you were doing then? You blink, confused. I wasn't born. He doesn't react. He writes again, the pen dragging too long on the page, the sound stretching into the hum until both noises blur together. You ever hear stories about Birch Hill? He asks next. You shake your head. He tilts his head slightly, a movement you unconsciously copy, and smiles. They used to hold trail runs there every summer. Amateur events. One year, a boy your age went missing. Same route you take. You look down at the water. It ripples faintly, though neither of you moved. What happened to him? You ask. He shrugs. Never found. Then, with a careful smile, people said he just kept running. You don't know if he means it as a joke. The words land wrong, heavy like a verdict. You feel heat creeping up your neck, your hands pressing harder against the table's edge. He watches, patient. Why are you telling me this? You ask. He doesn't answer. He mirrors your tone instead. Why are you telling me this? The sentence folds back on itself like an echo that's learned intent. The repetition cracks something subtle inside your chest. You look up sharply, ready to protest, but he's sitting perfectly still. Same posture, same gaze, same faint crease by the eye. Do you believe in muscle memory? He asks quietly. You nod before realizing you don't understand the question. He continues. They say the body remembers what the mind forgets, especially under stress. He pushes a folded map across the table, the trail, marked in red pen. You lean in. That's not the right layout, you say. The ridge bends left, not right. He taps the paper once. Are you sure? Yes. He waits, eyes steady. Then how do you explain this? You look again. The red line doesn't loop. It dead ends at a small circle labeled Incident Site June 12, 1982. That's not where I ran, you whisper. He repeats the words back, almost gently. That's not where I ran. This perfect mimicry. No delay, no tonal difference. The air between you thickens with the shared sentence. You can feel your breath sinking again with his, even as your chest tightens against it. You push the map away. Stop that. He tilts his head, same angle as yours, and says, stop that. You slam your hand against the table. The sound cracks through the hum. He doesn't flinch. The water in both cups ripples in identical patterns. You're trying to make me doubt myself, you say. He nods once. Am I? You don't answer. The heater kicks on, filling the silence with a soft mechanical purr. The vibration crawls along the floor, through the legs of the table into your bones. You swear you can feel it beating against your pulse. You stand. So does he. Perfect timing. You take a step back. He mirrors it. You raise your hand. He raises his. You stop breathing. He stops too. The air grows thin, collapsing inward like lungs turning to glass. For a heartbeat, you're convinced there's no one across the table. Just a reflection wearing patience. Then the ranger moves first. Just a fraction of a second too early. Enough to prove he's real. Or close to it. He breaks the silence. You've been here before, haven't you? You shake your head. No. But even as you speak, something in your body betrays you. your right hand drifting toward the place on your wrist where an old scar hides beneath the watchband. You don't remember how you got it. He watches that movement carefully, smiles. Then he mirrors it, touching his own wrist in the exact same spot. The heater clicks off again. He says, softly, "It's hard to keep track of which side of the glass you're on, isn't it?" You open your mouth to respond, but the reflection in the mirror beats you to it, your voice coming from the other side, saying the exact same thing at the exact same time. The ranger doesn't even look up. He just writes, calm as ever. Subject begins to align. The next time you open your eyes, the room feels smaller. Not different, just shrunken somehow, as though the walls have inhaled. The air smells of metal and paper and something faintly sweet, like overheated wiring. The ranger stands by the tape machine now. It sits on a rolling cart in the corner, reels glinting in the fluorescent light. The device hums quietly, a sound both comforting and unbearable. It reminds you of a heartbeat held underwater. Steady, distant, and wrong. He clicks a button, and the reels begin to turn. "We're going to listen to something," he says. You nod, though you're not sure if you've agreed. He adjusts the volume, and the hiss of tape fills the room, low and grainy. Then, beneath the static, your voice emerges. "Left, right, breathe. The fog's too thick." "The hills." You flinch. You don't remember being recorded. The ranger's tone stays even. "That's you, isn't it?" You listen closer. The voice is yours, but not recent. It's older, distant, like a memory replayed from a time before your mind learned to distrust itself. "How did you get that?" you whisper. He doesn't answer. He lets the tape play. There's a post up ahead, numbers carved in it. June 1982. You glance up sharply. "That's from this morning." He looks at you for a long moment, then says softly, "Is it?" You blink. "Of course it is. You were there. You brought me in." He doesn't respond. Instead, he leans on the cart, his hand resting gently on the spinning reel. "This recording was made 4 years ago." The hum of the room bends. Takes a second to realize you're holding your breath. "That's not possible," you say, voice trembling. He nods once, as though confirming it is. "A runner was found on Birch Hill in 1982. We made this tape during the initial debrief." You shake your head. "No, that's..." But the words collapse. You can hear your younger self breathing on the tape. Rapid, uneven, terrified. The ranger clicks pause. The reel stops mid-turn. "Listen carefully," he says. "What do you remember about this morning?" The question feels surgical. You try to answer, but memory refuses to cooperate. You recall fog, yes, and the forest, and your name whispered from nowhere, but every detail arrives fractured, mismatched, wrong. You force yourself to focus. "I remember running. I remember hearing something following me." He nods. "And before that?" "Before what?" "Before you ran." You search your mind. Images flicker. A table, a mirror, this room. You swallow hard. "I don't know." He watches, expression unreadable. "Would you like to hear the rest of the tape?" You hesitate. "What's on it?" "Something you said," he replies. "When you thought no one was listening." He presses play. The static returns, thicker now, alive with tiny fluctuations. Then your voice again, strained and half-whispered. "They told me to keep running." You go still. "That's not me." He tilts his head. "It sounds like you." "It's not." He lets the tape run. "I tried to stop, but the fog wouldn't let me. Every time I turned around, it was already waiting." You close your eyes, fingers gripping the edge of the table. The voice trembles. The breath hitches between words. Your exact cadence, your inflection, your pauses. Then the voice says something softer, almost inaudible. "He said he'd bring me back if I remembered." You look up sharply. "Stop it." The ranger does not move. The tape continues. "He's sitting across from me now." You lurch to your feet, knocking the chair back. "Turn it off." The ranger finally presses stop. The reels slow to a halt, one last hiss escaping the speaker. Silence expands like a bruise. He studies you carefully, voice calm. You recognize the description? You can't speak. Your tongue feels like paper. You look toward the mirror, half expecting to see yourself reflected. But the glass shows only the ranger, sitting exactly as he was, pen poised, waiting. You whisper, "What is this?" He replies, almost gently, "This is recall." You shake your head. "No, I don't remember any of that." That's the point. He walks around the table, close enough for you to feel the static rising from the machine. Sometimes, when the mind fractures, it hides the memory inside itself, plays it back later, piece by piece. You take a step back. "I'm not fractured. Everyone says that," he murmurs. At first, the lights flicker once. A brief pulse, just enough to blur the room for a heartbeat. The hum deepens, low and distorted, as though the tape machine has begun to breathe. You glance down at the reels, they're still, completely still. Yet the sound continues. The ranger's voice drops to a whisper. "Tell me what it said to you." You hesitate. "The fog?" he prompts. You nod slowly. "It said my name." He smiles faintly. "Good. That's a start." Then he gestures toward the tape machine. "Do you hear it now?" You listen against your will. The static thickens, reshaping into the cadence of words. A whisper, indistinct at first, then clearer. "Keep running." You step back. "Turn it off." "It's not on," he says. You look again. The reels haven't moved since he stopped them. The sound is coming from inside the machine, from the gap between reel and ribbon, a breath trapped in iron. He takes a step closer. "Sometimes the memory doesn't live in your head," he says softly. "Sometimes it stays in the recording." You shake your head, trembling. "You're lying." He looks almost sad. "No, you are." You look down at your watch again. Condensation forms another shape. Not numbers this time. Letters. "Run." You close your eyes, but the word is still there, glowing faintly behind your eyelids. You whisper, "What do you want from me?" The ranger leans close enough that his breath disturbs the static. "Just to remember." Then the room goes silent again, except for the faintest whisper of your own voice still echoing from nowhere. "Left, right, breathe." You wake to paper rustling. Not the clean snap of new sheets, but the brittle drag of something folded too many times. The ranger sits at the table again, spreading a topographical map across the surface. It's the same trail, Birch Hill Loop, drawn in faint red pencil. The ink looks older now, sun-faded even under fluorescent light. The lines stutter, like someone had drawn them from memory. He doesn't look up as he speaks. "We've been over this, but I want to try again. Just you and me. No recording this time." You glance toward the tape machine, it's gone. The cart, the reels, even the cords have vanished. The corner where it stood is empty. A faint square of cleaner floor, the only proof it was ever there. He gestures to the map. "Show me where you started." You point near the lower edge, the small road that leads from town to the ridge. He nods. "And where did you stop?" You hesitate. "I didn't. Not until you found me." A flicker of something passes across his expression. Not disbelief exactly, but recognition. "You were found on the ridge," he says, tapping the upper curve, "near the old boundary post." You lean closer. The map seems wrong. The ridge curves too sharply, the clearings are misplaced, and the stream, the one you crossed hundreds of times, is gone. "That's not it," you say quietly. He raises an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" You trace the trail with your finger. "The loop bends here," you say, drawing an invisible arc in this. You tap the small X labeled boundary marker. "Should be farther north." He studies you. "Are you sure?" You nod. "I've run it for years." He leans back, folds his arms. "Funny thing, though." He slides open a folder, revealing another copy of the same map, identical except for one detail. The path doesn't loop at all. It ends abruptly in the woods. You blink. "That's not." "This version's from 1982, he says softly. You swallow. "That's not possible." He folds the first map back over it. "Tell me, if the trail changed, when did it happen?" You don't know what to say. You want to argue, to insist that maps can't move, that geography doesn't play tricks. But as you look down, the ink seems to shift beneath your eyes, faintly, like a tide pulling against paper fibers. The red pencil line drifts, subtle but visible, curling inward on itself. You blink again. The change stops. The ranger is watching your reaction more than the map. You whisper, "It moved." He doesn't look surprised. Memory does that too. You shake your head. "No, the map. Is your mind?" He interrupts. "Same material. Same distortions." You push the paper away. "I'm not imagining this." He gives a small smile. "You're not. But that doesn't mean it's real." The heater clicks on again. The same steady vibration you've begun to dread. It fills the silence until you can't tell if the sound comes from the machine or your own chest. He slides another paper forward, a faded photo stapled to a report. A boy in a track jersey standing beside a race marker. The caption beneath reads, "Missing June 1982, Birch Hill Loop." You look closer. The face is grainy, but familiar. The same dark hair, same posture, even the same scar along the wrist. Your throat tightens. "That's not." The ranger leans in. "Who do you think it is?" You can't answer. He keeps his eyes steady. "What do you see when you run that trail?" You shake your head. "Trees. Fog. And what's at the end?" "There is no end." "Exactly," he says softly. "That's why you keep running." The heater hums louder. Your pulse sinks with it, deep and mechanical. You glance back down at the map. The red line shifts again, this time clearly, visibly curling into a spiral. "I don't understand," you whisper. He picks up his pencil. "Let's try something. Draw it for me, the route, the way you remember it." You hesitate, then take the pencil. The paper feels warm beneath your hand. You start drawing the road, the bend, the ridge. The line flows easily, muscle memory guiding it. But halfway through, something strange happens. The pencil starts to resist, dragging like it's moving through syrup. You press harder. The tip snaps. You blink down at the paper. The line you've drawn doesn't match what you remember. It loops and tightens, coiling toward the center where a faint stain spreads, dark and circular, like water or blood. You pull your hand back. The stain continues to widen. The ranger watches, unflinching. "That's where you stopped," he says quietly. "I told you I didn't stop." He taps the center of the stain. "No one ever does. Not on that trail." The room seems smaller again. You can feel the walls exhaling around you. The ranger folds the map carefully, then slides it into a manila envelope. "We'll review this later," he says. "For now, just breathe." You take a breath. It feels like inhaling paper. He nods approvingly. "Good. Stay grounded." But as you exhale, the word "run" fogs briefly across the table's surface, as though the air itself were remembering for you. You glance at him, terrified. He smiles faintly. "See? The body always knows the way back." The heater stops. The sudden stillness feels like a sound in itself, sharp, wrong, absolute. The room exhales into quiet, the kind that presses against skin like static. You hear nothing except your own pulse, quick and uneven. The ranger doesn't move. Neither do you. The map is gone now, folded into its envelope and sealed. But the faint circle stain still marks the table. You can't stop glancing at it. It looks wet, though you know it's dry. He finally speaks softly. "Let's not talk for a moment." You nod, though it isn't really a question. The silence stretches. Seconds, maybe minutes. You lose count quickly. The fluorescent lights hum, low and constant. Somewhere deep in the wall, something ticks. Pipes or wiring or heartbeats. You can't tell anymore. He studies you through the stillness. Every time you shift, he doesn't. Every time you try to match his stillness, your breath betrays you with sound. It feels deliberate, like he's training you to hear your own body too loudly. You whisper, "What are we doing?" He doesn't answer. You try again, louder. "Why are you?" He raises a finger. Silence. You swallow the words. The quiet returns heavier, denser. He lowers his hand, but the message lingers. You try to steady your breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. The way you'd train before a race. The air tastes stale, filtered through dust and memory. The ranger writes something down. You can't see what. When he finally speaks, it's almost too soft to catch. Do you know what happens when you stop talking? You shake your head. He sets the pen down gently. You start to listen, and what you hear first is the truth. The words slide through you like cold water. You don't respond. He continues, voice barely above a whisper. Every runner hits a wall eventually. Physical, psychological, doesn't matter which. What matters is what you do after the silence. He leans forward. So tell me, what did you hear when it got quiet out there? You blink. Nothing. He nods once. Try again. You hesitate. My name. He tilts his head. Whose voice? You hesitate again. Mine. He smiles faintly as if satisfied. Good. You're starting to remember. The word remember lands like a bruise. You want to speak, to argue, to demand logic, but the quiet has become a trap. Every sound feels like a trespass. The air between you tightens. Then, without warning, the lights flicker. Just once, enough to make your shadow jump across the wall. The ranger doesn't react. He watches your reaction instead. You whisper, "It's still happening, isn't it?" He tilts his head. What is? The fog. He doesn't answer. Instead, he slides the notepad toward you. Write what you remember. Your fingers tremble as you take the pen. You stare at the blank page. The lines blur faintly, bending into waves. You press the pen to paper and begin to write. Words first, then sentences, though none of them feel chosen. Running. Fog. Footsteps. Breathing. June 1982. You stop, staring at the last line. You didn't mean to write that. The ranger leans closer. Go on. You shake your head. I didn't. He cuts you off with a gesture. It's fine. Keep going. You write again. The words come faster now, your hand moving without permission. The hill, the crow, the voice, the mirror. You drop the pen. This isn't me. He nods slowly. No. But it's what's left of you. The room feels warmer suddenly, though you can't see any change. Your heartbeat echoes off the walls, louder than the lights, louder than the silence. The air tastes electric. You whisper, "Why can't I remember how I got here?" He leans back in his chair, calm as ever. Because you never left. You stare at him. What do you mean? He doesn't answer right away. He just waits, letting the silence do the work. The quiet becomes unbearable again, so heavy it shapes thought itself. You start to fill it automatically, anything to make it stop. I ran the trail. You say, voice cracking. There was fog. I got lost. I heard someone. Then, he interrupts softly. Then, you close your eyes. Then I woke up here. He nods once. And before the trail? You try to think. There's a flash, the same room, different time. His face, younger maybe. The same notepad. The same hum. You whisper, "We've done this before." His expression doesn't change. How many times? You shake your head. I don't know. He stands, walks to the mirror. You hear the squeak of his boots on the tile. He studies his own reflection. Then, quietly, silence brings truth. It's why we come back. You rise from your chair. Who's we? He turns slightly, smiling in the reflection. You'll see. You glance toward the table. The notepad is gone. The cup of water is gone. Only the faint circle stain remains. Darker now, spreading slowly outward, pulsing like something alive. The heater hums back to life, but the sound is wrong. Pulses in threes. Inhale, pause, exhale. A breathing pattern. Your breathing pattern. You look back at the ranger. He's standing perfectly still, eyes on the glass. Your reflection is the only one moving. You try to speak, but the room swallows sound before it leaves your throat. It feels like breathing inside someone else's lungs. The air thick, borrowed, used. The hum of the heater pulses once, then again, until it matches the rhythm in your chest. You realize the sound isn't background anymore. It's leading. The ranger stands at the mirror, his reflection still and patient. You stay seated, too aware of your own breathing, how loud it feels now, how mechanical. Each inhale lands heavier than the last. You try to slow it, to control it, but that only makes it worse. The breath becomes visible like fog spilling from your mouth. He finally turns, eyes quiet but awake. Do you notice it? You nod. The sound. He tilts his head slightly, a gesture you've started to dread. No, he says softly. The timing. You listen again. The heater, the lights, the buzz, the faint vibration in the walls. All of it breathes. In pause. You whisper, it's the same. He smiles faintly. Everything sinks eventually. People, rooms, stories. You lean forward, hands gripping the edge of the table. What do you mean? He doesn't answer directly. When a story loops long enough, he says, it starts to breathe on its own. The lights flicker. Once, twice. Your reflection blinks at the wrong time again, half a second delayed. You stare at it, willing it to match, but it never does. The ranger walks closer, his steps silent. You can feel the air shift with each movement, as though the room inhales when he does. Tell me what you see, he murmurs. You hesitate. The mirror. He nods. Describe it. It's fogging. How? You take a breath. From breathing. He tilts his head again. Whose? You stare at the glass. The fog on it blooms with each of your exhales, except not all of them are yours. The rhythm's off. There's an extra breath between yours. You stand quickly, chair scraping tile. There's someone else in here. He doesn't flinch. Show me. You point at the mirror. There. He turns, calm as ever, studies the glass. Describe what you see. You hesitate. The reflection shows two figures, you and him, but the spacing's wrong. The mirrored versions stand closer together than you do in reality, their shoulders nearly touching. Your throat tightens. It's closer in the reflection. He nods once, as if confirming something. Good. You whisper, why is that good? He steps closer to the table, rests his hands flat against the surface. Because proximity means alignment. You're remembering. You shake your head. Remembering what? He doesn't answer. Instead, he takes a slow, deliberate breath in, pause, out, and the heater hum shifts again, matching him. The rhythm in the room resets to his pace. Your chest tightens, fighting it. You try to breathe differently, faster, but the air won't cooperate. Each inhale drags, pulled toward his timing. The sound of two lungs merging. You slam your palm against the table. Stop! He doesn't move. You can't ask silence to stop, he says softly. It only grows. The lights flicker again. The room contracts. You can see condensation gathering on the glass. Two distinct patterns of breath. Then three. You step back. There's someone else here. He tilts his head. Who? You can't answer. The third breath is uneven, shallow, quick, panicked. It fogs the lower corner of the glass, right where a child's height would be. You whisper, no. The ranger doesn't react. Keep looking. The fog pattern shifts, forming faint shapes, letters, maybe numbers. You move closer, squinting. It reads, June 1982. You stumble back, shaking your head. That's impossible. He whispers. Everything repeats until it's learned. You press your hand against your chest. The heartbeat there is wrong. Not just fast, but duplicated, a half-beat delay echoing under your ribs. You realize the sound isn't entirely internal. The hum in the wall, the pulse of the heater, the flick of the light, all syncing with the rhythm of your breath. You whisper, it's recording me again. He smiles faintly. No, it's remembering you. The mirror fogs completely now, two silhouettes blending into one. You watch as your reflection leans forward even though you haven't moved. His breath hits the glass. A small circle clears where its mouth would be. Then, from behind the fog, another whisper surfaces, faint but exact. Left, right, breathe. You whisper the same words before you can stop yourself. The ranger listens, expression unreadable. Good. You're aligning. You clutch the edge of the table. Stop saying that. You're almost back, he murmurs. Back where? He looks at the fogged mirror. To the start. You glance at the door, but it's gone. There's only the wall and the reflection, and the sound of your own breath playing in two different rhythms. The mirror clears slowly. 3 reflections now, you, the ranger, and a third figure standing slightly behind him, face obscured by fog. You whisper, "Who is that?" He turns toward the glass. "The one who never came home." The reflection smiles faintly, your smile but wrong, wider. It mouths something you can't hear. You lean closer. The fog blooms again with every breath. Finally, the words appear, "Run." You stumble backward. The room exhales once, the lights flicker out, and the only sound left is breathing, yours, his, and something else learning how to match. The lights return with a flicker, weaker than before. They hum in short, irregular pulses, giving the room the illusion of breathing. You stand by the table, trembling, your reflection fractured into shards of pale light on the mirror. The fog hasn't cleared. It only moves, restless, alive. The ranger doesn't speak at first. He adjusts his cuffs, sits down slowly, and studies you. His calm has gravity. "Sit," he says. You obey without realizing why. The chair feels colder than before, as if something else had been sitting there moments ago. You grip the metal edge of the table and try to ground yourself, but your reflection doesn't match you anymore. It lags, delayed, almost lazy. He folds his hands. "You saw something," he says. You nod. "In the mirror." He nods, satisfied. "Good. Tell me what you think it was." You swallow hard. "Me. But not now. Older, maybe." He leans forward, elbows on the table. "Older." You hesitate. "Or before." "I don't know." It smiled. "Why do you think it smiled?" "Because it knew something I didn't." The ranger nods slowly, as though you've said exactly what he hoped you would. He reaches into his pocket, pulls out a small hand mirror, rectangular and worn. "Sometimes reflections show memory better than faces," he murmurs. "Let's see if we can find what you saw." He places it in front of you. The glass is cracked in one corner, a hairline fracture running diagonally across the surface. You stare down at your reflection, warped slightly, but still yours. "Describe it," he says. "My face." He waits. You add, "Tired, pale." "And behind it?" You squint. There's nothing but the ceiling light and the faint shimmer of fog behind you. You shake your head. "Nothing." "Try again," he says softly. "This time, breathe on it." You hesitate, then lean forward and exhale. The fog spreads across the surface. For a brief moment, the reflection vanishes. Then something else appears, faint shapes, blurred but recognizable. Trees, a hill, a wooden marker carved with 1982. You flinch, pulling the mirror back. The ranger's voice stays calm. "Where are you now?" You stare at the reflection. "The ridge." He nods. "What do you hear?" Your throat tightens. "Footsteps." "Whose?" You shake your head. "I don't know." He gestures for you to continue. "They're behind me, getting closer." "What do you do?" "I run." "Why?" "Because I know what happens if I stop." The fog on the mirror begins to clear again, revealing your reflection underneath, except your mouth is still moving even though you've stopped speaking. You whisper, "It's still talking." The ranger leans closer. "What is it saying?" You strain to hear. The sound is faint, like wind caught inside a throat. You bring the mirror closer. The reflection mouths the same word over and over, "Run, run, run." You slam the mirror face down on the table. "Stop." The ranger doesn't flinch. He simply asks, "Did it sound like you?" "Yes." "Or like someone else trying to be you?" You can't answer. Your pulse throbs behind your eyes. The air feels too thick to breathe. You want to scream, but it would only make the reflection louder. He leans back in his chair. "You remember the boy from the photo?" You nod weakly. "People said he vanished near the ridge." The ranger continues. "But the trail markers changed after that. Like the woods were swallowing the evidence." You stare at him. "You think that was me?" He meets your gaze. I think you know. The words land cold. You grip the edge of the table to keep from shaking. I was born after that, you whisper. He doesn't respond. You insist. Still silence. You glance toward the mirror again. The condensation has spread beyond its surface now. Streaks of fog crawling along the wall, blooming upward from the baseboards. It looks like the room is remembering how to be outside. The ranger watches, calm. It follows pattern, he says quietly. Breath, heat. Recall. Every time we do this, it starts the same way. You stare at him, uncomprehending. What do you mean every time? He sighs almost gently. You come back. Every few years. The fog thickens, a runner goes missing, and you arrive here again. You shake your head violently. No. He lifts the mirror. Look. You don't want to, but your eyes betray you. The reflection shows not one, but three faces now, yours, his, and another behind both of you. The third is blurred, as if underwater, but its outline matches yours perfectly. You whisper, "That's not me. It's what's left of you," he says. You shove back from the table. The chair skids. The air fills with condensation, the walls glistening with dew. Every surface breathes now. The heater, the floor, the mirror. You can hear it, an endless exhale circling back on itself. You yell, "Why am I here?" He stands. To finish the loop. What loop? He steps closer, eyes unblinking. The one that started on Birch Hill. You shake your head, backing away until your shoulders hit the wall. I don't remember. He stops. Then we'll start again. The lights flicker violently, once, twice, then stabilize into dim amber. The condensation on the mirror drips onto the floor, each drop falling in perfect rhythm with your heartbeat. You glance down. Your shoes leave wet prints, though you haven't moved. Each print faces the wrong direction, back toward the chair. The ranger whispers, "It's okay. You always come home." You can't look at him anymore. You turn toward the glass, your reflection now fully alive, mouth opening to speak before you can. It breathes one final word, breathe. You inhale, too deep, too sharp, and the fog surges inward like an ocean tide. The room disappears. Darkness isn't absence here. It's shape. The fog doesn't vanish. It condenses into something thicker, textured, tactile. You can feel it brush your skin as if it's alive and remembering you. There's no table now. No heater hum. No ranger. Only that steady rhythm of breath that you've begun to mistake for time. Each inhale feels older than the last. You're standing, barefoot this time, on cold linoleum that hums faintly, like the residue of machinery long shut off. Somewhere above, a fluorescent bulb flickers but never quite lights. You whisper, "Hello." The word lands flat. It doesn't echo this time. It absorbs. Then, faintly, a different tone answers, mechanical, female, distant. Recording in progress. You turn, scanning for the source. The phrase repeats, closer now. Recording in progress. You see the tape machine again. Only this time it's not on a cart. It sits on the floor, reels spinning without sound. The ribbon unwinds itself, snaking across the tiles like veins. You watch it crawl toward your feet, loop once around your ankle, then pull gently, like it wants you to follow. You kneel. The tape feels warm. When you lift it to your ear, it hums softly, almost human. A voice buried beneath static whispers your own name. You drop it. The tape keeps moving. It stretches toward the far wall where the mirror used to hang. But now there's only a door, cracked open, leaking dim orange light. You shouldn't, but you do. You follow. The hallway beyond is narrow, lined with faded posters of search notices. Every photo blurs when you look too long. One of them, half torn, shows the same boy from before, standing at the edge of the ridge, his face turned slightly away from the camera. The caption reads, "Last seen June 12, 1982. You touch the paper. The surface ripples like breath trapped beneath it. Behind you, the tape reels spin faster. The ribbon tightens around your wrist, tugging once. An invitation or a warning. You follow its pull. The hallway leads into another room. This one smaller, darker, its walls lined with metal filing cabinets. A single lamp burns on a desk. You recognize the desk immediately. The notepad, the empty cup, the faint circular stain. You whisper, "No." The ranger sits there, motionless, hands folded. His eyes are open but unfocused. You call his name, though you don't think he ever gave it, and his head turns slowly like a camera panning by mistake. "You came back," he says softly. You swallow. "Where are we?" He gestures to the room, voice almost tender. "Where we always end up." You glance at the walls again. On them, dozens of cassette tapes are pinned by nails, each labeled with a date. 1982, 1986, 1990, 1994. The pattern continues, each label 4 years apart. Each one marked, Subject 7 Runner. You step closer. "Those are all me?" He doesn't answer. You pull one tape from the wall. The label is yours, your handwriting. Birch Hill, Session 11. The reel inside looks darker than tape should, like it's been burned at the edges. You slip it into the machine on the desk. Clicks automatically, as though recognizing you. The static begins immediately, low, familiar. Then your own voice. "He said if I stop running, it'll find me." The ranger closes his eyes, listening like prayer. You press pause. "What finds me?" He opens his eyes again, and this time they're glassy, like reflection instead of sight. "Memory," he says, "the part of you that never left the hill." You feel the room sway, faintly. The shadows on the wall stretch toward you, pulled by your breath. The air thickens the way fog does when it decides to stay. You whisper, "This already happened." He nods once. "It's happening." You shake your head. "No." But before you can finish, the lamp flickers. Its light bends toward the wall where your shadow stretches beside his. You freeze. Your shadow moves, but not like you. Its breath comes faster, shoulders rising and falling out of rhythm. You whisper, "That's not me." The ranger doesn't look at it. "It's what remembers you," he says quietly. The shadow's chest expands, takes a slow breath in. When it exhales, fog spills from its mouth, spilling into the room like liquid air. You step back, heart hammering. "Make it stop." He shakes his head. You can't stop a story halfway through. You can only loop it. You stare at the shadow. "What happens if I don't?" He meets your gaze almost kindly. You disappear again. The tape recorder clicks once, spontaneous, autonomous. Your voice plays from it again, trembling but clear. "I think I see him now. He looks like me." The ranger leans forward, whispering in rhythm with the recording. "He looks like me." You stumble back. The shadows merge, yours and his, stretching into one elongated figure that breathes with both of your rhythms. You yell, "Stop!" He whispers, "Keep running." The fog surges up from the floor, wrapping your legs. You push forward, toward the door, but the air thickens until every motion feels like swimming through memory. The last thing you hear before it closes around you is your own voice on tape saying, "I'll come back." You wake to the sound of gravel underfoot. Not footsteps exactly, more like memory retracing itself. The air is thin again, cold and wet, and the light is gray, the color of unspoken things. You're standing at the mouth of Birch Hill Trail. You look down. Your shoes are clean, laces freshly tied. No mud, no tape burns. The condensation is gone. The world is eerily quiet, but not empty. Feels paused. The forest stretches ahead, familiar and wrong in equal measure. The fog drifts low, brushing the tops of roots and stones, thickening near the ridge. You tell yourself you've been here before, that this is only memory, but your lungs already know better. They brace for the climb. You start walking. Each step lands with a softness that isn't sound. The forest smells like pine needles and rust. Somewhere in the distance, a crow makes a half-hearted cry, as though rehearsing one it's forgotten. The wooden post still stands at the base of the hill. The carving is sharp this time, the numbers deeper than before, June 1982. The grooves look freshly cut, edges still pale from the knife. You touch them. The wood is cold, Behind you, the wind changes direction. The sound of breathing returns. Faint, slow, steady. Not yours. You don't turn around. You keep walking. The fog follows, keeping its distance like an obedient shadow. The rhythm builds. Crunch, inhale, exhale. You find the old trail's pulse again. Automatic, inherited. You pass the same fallen log, the same rock that once served as a marker, though both look older, smaller, folded into the earth. Halfway up the ridge, the air thins further. The silence becomes textured, the kind that listens back. You feel the weight of an audience you can't see. Then a voice, calm, behind you. Do you know why you run? You freeze. The voice isn't the ranger's. It's yours. It continues, tone even, detached. You always come back here, to see how far you got. You turn slowly. The fog parts like a curtain being pulled by invisible hands. A figure stands at the base of the hill, dressed like you, posture like yours, head tilted slightly, studying you the way the ranger used to. His breath clouds the air between you, rhythmic, steady. You whisper, "Who are you?" The figure smiles. The part that stayed. The ground trembles slightly. You feel the pulse of it through your feet, as though something beneath the soil is remembering how to move. You take a step backward. The figure takes a step forward. "Stop," you say. It repeats softly. "Stop." The word echoes perfectly, not mimicry now, but simultaneity. You feel it reverberate in your chest, as if both bodies share one breath. You whisper, "I'm not you." The figure tilts its head. "That's what they all say." They? Every time. You stumble back another step, but there's nowhere to go. The fog has closed the path behind you. The hill rises in front, endless. The air smells like metal and water. You whisper, "What happens if I stop running?" The figure answers, almost tenderly. Then you remember. You look down at your wrist. The watch face is clear now, no fog beneath the glass. The numbers read 6:12 a.m., the starting time. You laugh sharp, breathless, hopeless. "It's the same morning." "It always is," the figure replies. The air thickens. The fog rises. The trail ahead glows faintly, pulsing like veins under skin. You step forward. So does it. You start running. The forest responds, folding open, reshaping itself into every version of the story you've told. The ridge shifts, the post changes, the air tastes of old static. You feel the echo behind you keeping pace, breathing when you breathe, whispering when you whisper. At the crest of the hill, the world pauses again. You stop. For the first time, the fog doesn't follow. It waits. The figure steps out beside you, not behind. The two of you stand shoulder to shoulder, breathing in the same rhythm. You look toward the valley. Gray sky, frozen trees, the faint glint of a ranger's station far below. You whisper, "Am I real?" The figure answers, "You are remembered." You close your eyes. The fog curls upward, slow and deliberate, until it feels like lungs wrapping around the world. When you open them, the trail is empty. The post stands alone. The carving now reads only one word, runner. The crow calls once more, distant but certain. And then there's nothing left but wind, fog, and the sound of two breaths fading into one. There's a quiet that lives only in the spaces where stories end. Not silence, but the echo that lingers when every word has done its work. Birch Hill returns to fog. The road empties. The trail smooths its own footprints, as it always does. The ranger's station stands dark. A tape machine clicks once, even though no hand touches it. Inside, reels begin to spin. Not fast, just enough to remind the room of a heartbeat. The label reads, Session 12 to 1986. In the clearing above, morning light filters weakly through clouds. Dew gathers on the wood post where your fingers once pressed. The carving looks cleaner now, less like a date, more like a name. Somewhere, miles away, another runner laces their shoes. They stretch. They breathe. They tell themselves the fog is only weather. And the forest, patient as ever, breathes with them. You can almost hear it, the rhythm, The inhale, the quiet promise that it's only a loop, not a trap. You want to believe it. You do. But deep under the hum of the world, beneath asphalt and soil and roots, a voice waits. Calm, familiar, rehearsed, left, right, breathe. You hear yourself answer, softly, obediently, like the beginning of a new recording. And somewhere in that fog, a trail bends where it shouldn't.